Thank you very much. Have you ever engaged in a negotiation? Raise your hands, please. Yeah, a few of you. Yeah, not all. Let me define what a negotiation is. It's a strategic discussion between two or more parties in order to resolve a problem and or reach an agreement satisfying for all of them. Now, knowing this, we can actually start thinking, we have been negotiating all our lives. All of you. Let's analyze this. In our job, if you have a job, we are going to be negotiating with our boss, with our co-workers, with our subordinates, with our customers, clients, suppliers, distributors. In our personal life, who do we negotiate with? With our parents, our spouses, our children, our siblings, our friends. All day long, we all have been negotiating. Those of you who have negotiated, have you always been successful? Not always, right? Well, we need to be trained for that. Either by specialists, experts in negotiations, or we can take courses, right? That is a very important recommendation I want to make. Now that we know what a negotiation is, let's analyze what culture is, because this is also going to be our topic of today. Culture is a set of habits, tradition, customs, belief systems, and values of a specific group of people. I need to let you know, there are no good or bad cultures, therefore. There are no better or worse cultures. They are just different, and we have to respect all of them. That's where DEI comes in, right? Diversity, equality, and inclusion. Now, let us see the following. If we talk about the negotiation phases, I want to make sure that the four in white that you see there, these do not change ever. We use the very same phases here in Mexico, in the US, in any other countries. They never change. What does happen is the behavior of different executives of different cultures, that behavior will vary in these phases, okay? And the one in yellow is the one we do before we even sit down to negotiate. That has a lot to do with the following. And a lot of business people do not do that well. There we decide to begin with, what are our own objectives? What do we want to achieve? How are we going to do that? What are our strategies? What is our walkaway price? What is our best alternative to a negotiated agreement called partner? I call it Plan B, because we might have a strategy, Plan A, and we work on that, and we suddenly realize, well, this is not going to work out. This is going to fall down. So we jump to Plan B in order to rescue Plan A again, right? It's a very powerful element in negotiations. Now, what else do we want to know? We want to know what our counterpart, right? What their objectives are, what their strategies are, what their partner is, and all that. What is their decision-making level? Highly interesting in the cross-cultural negotiations, because there are countries where decisions are made at the highest level. In other countries, the decision is delegated. In other countries, they make decisions by groups. Now, if it's a group decision, that already includes DEI. Why? Because every opinion is valid, every opinion is heard of and accepted, respected, and then they make a decision by the group. But let us suppose that our team comes from a country where the decisions are made at the highest level. So what do negotiators do? They identify the decision maker. And inexperienced negotiators will mess up. And they will say, okay, I know who the decision maker is. I will focus on him and not take into consideration much the others. Big mistake. What do professional, successful, experienced negotiators do? They say, we know who the decision maker is, but we are going to treat all the others just like decision makers. But we will focus a bit more on the real decision maker. Not much, just enough. to let the decision maker know, we know who you are. We know it's you. And the decision maker of the other team will also realize, yeah, we are treating everybody correctly and with respect. DEI has to do with respect. It is all about respect, okay? And then we will also know that we know who the decision maker is. So this is highly important. Now, we also have to know our strengths and weaknesses, our limitations, but also of the other party, their strengths, their weaknesses, their limitations. Which brings me to a phrase from Sun Tzu, The Art of War, you know. He says, know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles without disaster. Now, I've always insisted, wonderful phrase, by the way, but I've always insisted, never consider the other party that you're negotiating with as an enemy. No. We are just here, we are equals. Nobody is more important than the other. We are the same, we are equals. But we have a problem, we want to fix it. Or we want to reach an agreement, we want to do that. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. That's what we should be doing. DEI constantly present. As a matter of fact, I've always said, since it has to do with respect, we should have DEI in our DNA, in our blood, really. Okay? Albert Einstein, you know him, had a phrase which says, you can be an internationalist without being indifferent to the member of one's tribe. He calls them tribe. Wonderful phrase. Wonderful phrase. What does it have to do with it? We can all unite. Forget about races, forget about nationalities, forget about all those borders and barriers, right? We can all unite. It all has to do with let's respect each other, all of us. So, what happens now is when we talk about culture, every country has a dominant culture, but also macro and micro. And I'm going to use two examples, two countries, right? So the US of A, we have Native Americans. Whether they are natives in the northern part, in the southern part, they are similar, but also different, right? Have to be respected. Now, the African Americans, their forefathers might have come from Kenya, Madagascar, Nigeria, South Africa, but similar, but also different. The Asians and the Latin Americans, yeah. I mean, Colombians, Peruvians, Ecuadorians, Mexicans, Panamanians, they are all Latin Americans, right? No natives from there, but similar, but also different. And the European Americans, well, they might have come from Norway, Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, so on and so forth, right? Similar, but also different. Now, each of these macro cultures have a lot of micro cultures. And that's why I'm going to use the Mexican example here. The dominant culture would be the Mexican one. And we have macro cultures, like the northern region, the southern region, east and west, east coast, west coast, and so on and so forth. We have different communities here. The older people that are senior citizens, the emos, the LGBTQ community, the Mexican natives. We have natives over there in the northern part, the Tarahumara, as you all know, and then there's some in Chiapas and in Oaxaca, all over the place, in the central part of the country, natives all over the place, all similar, but also different, right? And we have to be respectful of that. Now, look at this. What does this tell you? Well, there are two executives, right? From two different cultures. They're trying to greet each other here, but they're making a mistake. They are having an ethnocentric approach to their way of dealing with other cultures. Ethnocentrism, bad idea. It means that a culture considers its culture superior to others. That is already wrong, because we know that there is no better or worse culture, right? And In this case, they both insist on their negotiation and cultural etiquettes and protocols. And if they're going to start a negotiation like this, it's probably not going to go well, right? Not really well. Now, we can have a negotiation team of our own tribe, as Albert Einstein calls it. We can say, well, our own country, our own region, our own way of behaving, our own way of thinking, fine by me. But it would be very, very wise to have a diverse team. Why is that so important? Because diversity gives us more creativity. And that helps us create more options and better options in order to solve a problem or reach an agreement. Makes sense, isn't that logical? So DEI should always be present, always, in our DNA, actually, right? So now as we can see, these are diverse here. In the Harvard method of negotiation, by the way, William Moody is one of their co-founders of the negotiation course. They have this phrase that says, separate people from problems. And when they say soft on people, hard on problems, I call them also tough on the issues, right? This means that the negotiation skills of an experienced negotiator include all of that automatically. But if you think about soft on people, we automatically also including DEI. Why do we do that? Because we cannot be soft on people by disrespecting them, or by not including their opinions, right? By not treating them equally. Remember now, when we negotiate, nobody is more important than the other. We are equals. We just want to work together and collaborate, okay? What I have done over the many years is when I train corporations and I train the international executives, I teach them the course, and at the end, I do a role play. And the logical part would be, I will say, for example, I have teams of 5 and say, you guys are going to be from Holland. So you need to study now the Dutch culture and the Dutch way of negotiating, right? In these phases. And you guys are going to be, I don't know, from Madagascar, an African country. So study the African culture of Madagascar and the way of negotiating in those phases. But both of them will know whom they're going to be negotiating with in the role play. So they will prepare and study the other culture and vice versa, right? So at the end of the day, when they do that, the results are great. Most of them are successful. Over 90% of negotiations are successful. Now, about 10 years ago, I changed that. I also teach at universities, by the way, this course. As you can, some of you might know these people here. Lovely students last semester from the Arkansas State University, Campus Querétaro, so right here, the Totem International Market. Now, we had 5 cultures, but I'm using only these 2 now for an example, right? And so I told the ladies, I said, you are going to be executives from India. So study India, the culture, and the way of negotiating. And the others, I told them, you are Greeks, so study the Greek culture. But, that's all you know. You do not know whom you are going to be negotiating with, and you do not focus on any other culture. So I use the ethnocentric approach, which I usually reject so much. I used it on purpose, because guess what's going to happen? Oh, I also tell them to dress up, but we are trying to, right? To dress up and make this more pleasant. So when they start the negotiations, guess what happens? They know nothing about the other culture. They just know it. At the very beginning, I say, okay, now the ones from India, come over here. The ones from Greece, come over here. And they start negotiating. So they had no time to prepare for the other culture. And guess what happens when they start negotiating? Negotiations become difficult. Arguments start heating up. Insights might be exchanged. aggressive behavior might be observed. And that's when I jump in, of course, as a moderator, right? And at the end of the negotiation, and that happens with all the teams, I say, so what happened? And people tell me, well, we can't negotiate with these people. And I say, why not? Well, they are so rude, so mean, so disrespectful, so aggressive. I will never make business with these people. And I usually say, well, what could we have done? And the answer is always the same. Well, had we known which country we were going to negotiate with, we would have researched that and we would have studied the behavior in these negotiation phases. Makes sense, right? The logical thing. But I did it on purpose because I wanted to know it. The logical thing is intellectually understanding it. But it's not the same as feeling that clash they experienced, right? I wanted them on purpose to have this cultural shock. And they will never forget this moment. Never, ever. Now, we never want something like this. When we negotiate and we fail, what are we going to do? We're going to go back to the office. We're going to be sad and disappointed. And we're going to say, what did we do wrong? We identify the problem. And we hopefully fix it for the next occasion. Makes sense, right? But what happens if we did achieve the objective? And not only that, let us suppose we exceeded the expectations. Even better, right? The result was great. So what are we going to do? We're going to high-five each other. We're going to celebrate. And that's fine by me. Harvard tells us something different. They say, okay, go ahead and celebrate. But once you're done with that, because you deserve it, once you're done with it, go back to the office and start analyzing. Why were we so successful? What did we do so well? What could we have done better? Did we miss an opportunity? And I have to stop here for a second. Inexperienced negotiators, what will they do? They reach an agreement, even a better deal still for both parties, so win-win, right? And they say, hey, we're all happy, the other party is happy too, so let's sit down and sign the contract. Experienced negotiators say, don't do it. Harvard recommends that as well. They say, no, don't do it yet. Sit down and start thinking. What else can we do for the other party in order to sweeten the deal for them? What else can we offer them? And now, reciprocity, the others will respond to that. And we say, well, that's nice, right? We already had an agreement. Now they are making it even better. Now let's do that for them too. What else can we offer them additionally? So they are also having a better deal. So what have we done here really? We already had a great agreement, a great result, and now we are making it greater, which we have a pie that big, great result, and now we are making the pie even larger. And that's when we come out like this. We have maximized, optimized the benefits for both parties. And that's what a successful negotiation is all about. But I can only reach that with DEI. I have to be respectful to the others. Remember, DEI is all about respect. Okay? My favorite image is the next one. Visualize two executives from two different cultures, one of Western culture, the other Japanese. They're at the airport and either greeting each other or saying goodbye to each other. Here we go. Yeah, I can hear you smile, I can see you laugh. What happened there? That is a beautiful scene, right? Both of them were so eager to respect the other executive's culture that they actually exceeded with cultural sensitivity. Now, I can imagine this already if this really had happened, right? So I'm one of them, and suddenly this happens, and I'm going to say, well, what the hell happened here, right? And then I'm going to look at the other guy, we're going to probably start smiling, laughing out loud, cracking up, probably hugging each other, and become friends for the rest of our lives. Besties, if you will. Okay? I love this one. I had rather be excessively cultural sensitive than what we saw at the beginning with the other two, the other way around. Does this make sense? Please remember, diversity, equity, inclusion, so important. So what should we do? First of all, let's learn how to negotiate professionally in our own country and culture. Second, let us learn to understand cultures, their differences, and embrace them. Third, let us learn how to negotiate professionally across cultures. Four, let us review our negotiation successes in order to keep improving them, maximizing the benefits for both parties in order to create a more successful deal, right? And last but not least, let us value DEI in all our aspects of our lives in order to avoid disrespecting others and in order to create social harmony altogether. And if we do that, if we really do that, well, then we are really going to make things happen. Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias.